Hello dear students, welcome to Devika's Commerce and Management Academy. Today I want to teach you one trial balance problem. Trial balance already we have done. It was in horizontal format. Now today we will see in vertical format, and also very important, if you can work out this trial balance problem, I can say you are 100% perfect. So I am sure. So anyway, so let's work out this small trial balance problem and make sure you must be thorough, because trial balance is the base of accounting, right? So the problem is given here like this. The following trial balance has been prepared wrongly. You are asked to prepare the trial balance correctly. You have to correct it. Some amounts are, instead of debit side, it's written on the credit side. Rather than credit side, it's written on the debit side. You have to identify and you have to correct it. So for this you need to be thorough, then only you will be able to correct this problem, right? Now by the way, did you remember the concept of trial balance? Trial balance, you will have debit and credit. Debit side what do you write? Credit side what do you write? Debit side, always remember assets, expenses, losses. I think there is a shadow, but you will be able to read it. Debit side you are writing assets, expenses, losses. Credit side, liabilities, incomes and gains, opposite to the debit. Debit side you are saying assets, credit side liabilities. Expenses here debit, incomes credit. Losses debit, gains credit, opposite. If you are able to remember debit side, what comes? Assets, expenses and losses. Say along with me. And credit side, always liabilities and what else is there? Liabilities, incomes and gains, right? So if you remember this formula, you can work out this trial balance. Each and every item you have to identify that what it is. Is it in expenses, income, asset, liability, loss or gain? What it is? Then automatically you will be able to work out. Now let's focus on the problem. See here, the first thing is that capital. What is the nature of the capital? Capital is a liability. Liability. For the firm, for the business it is liability. Liability means where it should be? Liability should be on the credit side, but it is on the debit side. Wrong, na? So we are going to write it on the credit side, because capital is a liability. Capital. Liability side we are writing 22,000. Why we are writing it is a liability? Liabilities should be on the credit side. Then stock. Stock is an asset. When we are having stock, it's an asset. So all the assets will be on the debit side. So is it on the debit side? It's written on the credit side, opposite. So we'll write it on the debit side. Stock. Debit side 10,000. Okay. Next, debtors. Debtors is asset. All the assets will be on the debit side. So we'll write debit side. It's already in the debit side only. So we'll write it as it is. Debtors 8,000 on the debit side. Next, creditors. Creditors is a liability, right? Creditors is the liability. So all the liabilities will be on the credit side. So it is on the credit side only. So as it is, we'll write it on the credit side. Creditors 12,000 credit side. Right? Next, machinery. Machinery is an asset. All the assets will be on the debit side. So machinery, by mistake they have written on the credit side. We'll write it on the debit side. Machinery 20,000 on the debit side. Next, cash in hand. Cash in hand is also asset. All the assets should be on the debit side as per this, but it is written on the credit side, opposite. Wrong it is. So we'll write it on the debit side. Cash in hand. Cash in hand, debit side will write 2,000. Next, bank overdraft. Bank overdraft is liability, isn't it? Liability. So all the liabilities will be on the credit side here, right? credit side, is it? So it's on the debit side, so we'll change it on the credit side. Bank overdraft, 14,000 credit side. Next, sales returns. I hope you remembered. Purchases debit, purchase returns credit, sales credit, sales returns debit. Now what they are saying, sales returns. Sales returns should be always on the debit side because sales will be credit. Sales returns debit, but it is on the credit side. So sales returns should be on the debit side. By mistake they have written on the credit side, so we'll write it on the debit side. Sales returns. Sales returns 8,000. Stick is not required, I think. Many students are asking, ma'am, you are holding a stick. Okay, sales returns are over. Next, purchase returns. Purchases debit, purchase returns credit. Now here it's written on the debit side, actually it is credit. Purchase returns credit, so credit side will write. Purchase returns credit side 4,000. Next, miscellaneous expenses. Any expenses debit, you know, okay. So miscellaneous expense debit side only they have written, so we'll write it on the debit side only because it comes on the debit side. Expenses 12,000. Next, sales will be credit, right? So credit side only they have written, so it is always credit. Expenses are debit, na? So miscellaneous expenses. So sales are credit, credit side only we'll write as it is. Sales, how much? 44,000. Next, purchases. Purchases always debit. It is written on the debit side only. So debit side will say purchases 26,000. Next, wages. Wages are expenses. Salary is also expenses. Both are expenses. Expenses will be on the debit side. So both are expenses. Salaries are expenses. Wages also expenses. We'll write it both on the debit side. Wages 10,000 debit side. Salaries are credit side, it is given. Actually it comes on the debit side, no, so we'll write it on the debit side. 12,200. Next, bills payable. Bills payable liability. So this is liability. Liabilities comes on the credit side, so we'll write it on the credit side. Bills payable. Bills payable liability, it comes 10,800. Next, outstanding salaries. Outstanding salaries means payable. Outstanding salaries payable. Payable means it is a liability. All the liabilities will be on the credit side, but they have given on the debit side. So we'll take it on the credit side. Outstanding salaries 1,400. Liability, no, so credit side. That's all. We have posted everything and we can just total up. Let me use the calculator. Here debit side 10,000, 30,000, 40,000, 40, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 96,000, 96,000 plus 12,200. It comes to 1,08,200. In the same credit side also we'll see 22,000 plus 2,000, 40,000, 40, 54,000, 54 plus 54,000 plus 40, 48,000 plus 10,800 plus 1,400. it comes to 1,08,200. Right? It's tallying, means the problem is correct. First you take a screenshot, then I'll explain it once again. See, there is nothing to worry, only the thing is that what is given you have to identify. So, 1 minute. What is given you have to identify, and if you know the rule, debit and credit. Debit side will write always assets, expenses and losses. Credit side liabilities, incomes and gains. If you remember this each and every item as I have identified, you identify where does it comes first, try to recognize it. Then after that, where they have written, that you can check it out. If they have written in the correct side, okay, as it is you write it. If it is on the wrong side, post it on the right side. Simple. See, as we have done, capital is a liability. This is wrongly posted. Okay, it should be on the credit side. Stock, asset. So this is also wrongly posted. Debtors, asset, debit side. This is correct. And creditors is also correct because it's a liability. Machinery, asset. So it is wrongly posted. So we have written on the debit side. Cash in hand, asset. So asset should be on the debit side. By mistake they have written on the credit side. So this is also posted on the debit side. Next, bank overdraft, liability. All the liability should be on the credit side. By mistake they have written on the asset side, posted here. And sales returns, sales credit, sales returns debit. But here it is written on the credit side. Purchase returns, purchases debit, purchase returns credit. Okay, this is also wrong. Miscellaneous expenses correct, debit side because it's expenses. Sales also correct because it's sales. Sales will be always on the credit side. Purchases also correct. Purchases will be always on the debit side. And wages, liability, as expenses, wages, expenses, so debit side it is given correct. Salary is also expenses, but by mistake they have written on the credit side, so this is wrong, posted on the debit side. And bills payable, it's a liability. Liability means you have to take it on the credit side. By mistake they have written on the debit side, so this is also wrong. Outstanding salaries also liability, so it must be on the credit side, 10,800 and 1,400, right? So that's all. We have identified wherever it is wrong, that we have posted on the opposite side. That's it, simple. Understood? Do one thing, see the problem and you work out by yourself. Don't see the solution. If you get the answer, same answer, 1,08,200, please write it in the comment box. Madam, I got the answer. I feel very happy. So stay connected. I'll be updating more videos and more subjects as much as possible with my energy and time. Stay connected and learn and grow up your career. I want to see you all in a very good position. Take care. Good luck.